Today we're going to talk about the general ledger account and account segments. The chart of accounts defines the general ledger account, and there's segments. Epicor best practice suggests that you use 3 segments at a minimum. You can have up to 19 different segments. The chart of accounts is referenced on the book as one of the tables on the book, along with the currency and the calendar. The general ledger account is comprised of different segments, and again, Epicor best practice suggests using 3 segments in this format. The first digit starting to identify where it is on our financial statement. And the second segment could be department or cost center. The third segment would be division or location. And there's different ways to link and use standard functionality to capture information based on the account segments. So if you wanted to capture, as an example, if you want to capture your applied labor by direct labor department, you could use the department segment that's here as one of the segments, and it could change dynamically into the general ledger account so that you could capture your earned labor by paint, or earned labor by machining, or earned labor by welding, different direct labor departments, and the applied burden or earned burden would be follow along with the labor. And then the third segment would be division or location to help identify if you have different, this gets into where you might want to use different site IDs based on division, if that would help your business out. We can, most of the time the account segments are capturing dollars, but we can set up a statistical account. Could be a number of units that were shipped, or direct labor hours. That's another option within Epicor. There's 2 types of segments, controlled and dynamic. Controlled are the ones that are initially set up as the 3 that we just talked about. Dynamic segments can be added at any time in the future, so that, such as a project ID could be the project ID could be a segment in your general ledger account number. You wouldn't have to always print that on your trial balance. You could omit that from printing on the trial balance, but it would still be in the detail. It would always be in your general ledger though. Or customer ID, if there's a few customers, worked with a furniture company in Grand Rapids a few years ago, and they wanted to use a 4th segment to capture depreciation by cost center, by direct labor department, because they were going through a big expansion renovation project where they were going to have new machines in certain areas, certain departments, and they wanted to capture that depreciation in that department. So they were using a dynamic segment to capture that. On the setup and the chart of accounts, each segment would have an entry code. Controlled segments, the entry code really needs to be mandatory. Dynamic segments probably should be optional. So if we go back to controlled segments for a moment, if the natural account or the chart, the first account, defaults to mandatory. And then the other segments you have to select, you have options to select mandatory or optional. If you leave it as optional, you could end up with an inventory account that had 2 segments and another inventory account that had 3 segments. But there is that, this gets into just because you can, doesn't mean that you should. But you have that option within the software. And then the way that the general ledger account is created, you populate a segment of the chart segment, like 1,000 for cash, maybe 1,200 for accounts receivable, maybe 4,000 for sales, 5,000 for cost of sales, and a department. Usually on the balance sheet, those would be zeros, and a location or division would probably be 0 or 01, depending on what you might want. Some organizations like to use location 01 and 02 for different locations or divisions, and then leave 00 as a potential holding company or possibly a roll-up for reporting for that location of 00. But the general ledger account number is created when it takes one value from each of the 3 tables and strings them together with a separator, either a dash or a period. Usually one of those 2 identifiers is the separator.